All right, so we're here today to talk about the Cassie Ventura versus P. Diddy case. It's been in the news. Everybody's talking about it. The case was filed just less than a week ago and settled within 24 hours. This is a case that was filed in district court, meaning in federal court. It was filed in New York. I've got the filing in front of me. It's a 35-page complaint. This complaint details essentially everything involving the relationship between Cassie Ventura and P. Diddy from the time they first met all the way up until really the time that the complaint was filed, because it goes into how she's been harmed, even though she really hasn't been in contact with P. Diddy for several years, how she's continued to suffer harm that's alleged in the complaint, including suffering harm all the way up until this date. I would add this, right? Like, why did it settle so quickly? I read an article in the New York Times that quoted both P. Diddy's lawyer as well as the lawyers for Cassie Ventura, and there was mention that there had been a back and forth and some attempts to negotiate a settlement before the lawsuit was even filed. And so, there was probably a lot of groundwork already laid as it relates to trying to negotiate some type of a settlement. Of course, they weren't able to come to an accord, so the lawsuit was filed. Then obviously somebody took it seriously, and the case settled really, really quickly thereafter. The first 25 pages of the complaint are nothing more than factual background. Okay, it describes who these various parties are, who's P. Diddy, who's Cassie Ventura. A number of P. Diddy's various companies were sued in this complaint: Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Records, Epic Records, Cohn Enterprises LLC. And there's an explanation in here as to why those various entities were sued. One of the claims is that P. Diddy had around him a number of enablers who enabled and aided him in, if you believe the complaint, and all of this wrongful conduct that was directed towards Cassie Ventura. And so, in addition to Sean Combs or P. Diddy being named, all of his various companies were named as well. So the first 25 pages just goes through and describes who those various people or entities are, and then the vast majority of it is all of the allegations related to the things that P. Diddy did to Cassie Ventura. So once you get to page 26, we actually start with the causes of action. The first one is a cause of action for sex trafficking under U.S. law. The second is for a violation of the New York Services for Victims of Human Trafficking. That's under New York law. Another one is a violation of the California Trafficking Victims Protection Act. That's under California law. The fourth cause of action is for battery and sexual battery under New York law. And it goes on and on. In total, there are 8 causes of action. There's a prayer, okay, which is, yep, that's what we call it. So at the end of most complaints, there's something called a prayer for relief. That's, what are you asking for, right? What's the plaintiff seeking out of the case, okay? And in this instance, the prayer is asking for a money judgment, but it's not specific as to the amount. The prayer is asking for a money judgment for mental pain and anguish and severe emotional distress. It's asking for that according to proof, again, not a specific amount. It's asking for punitive damages, meaning damages to punish for the type of conduct that's alleged in the case. Again, according to proof, no specific amount. It's asking for attorney's fees, prejudgment interest, and any other relief that the court may deem just and proper. That's very typical. That's something that you see at the end of almost any lawsuit for money damages. In a case like this, it would be unusual to see a specific request for a monetary sum in the complaint. I mean, look, cases settle all the time for a variety of reasons, okay? One, the cost of pursuing a case. Litigation is very expensive, and so there are instances where a case may settle simply because the settlement offer is sufficient to negate the risk to both the plaintiff and the defendant to the extent that they want to amicably resolve their claims, right? Or amicably resolve their case. That happens all the time. So In fact, every single settlement release, and I haven't seen the settlement release in this case, that is probably a highly protected document. I'm sure that there are various confidentiality clauses within that document. But I would imagine, like almost every settlement release, within that document, there is a paragraph that expressly states that this is not an admission of fault in any way, right? When cases settle, as a general rule of thumb, there is always a paragraph within the settlement release where the plaintiff is agreeing that just because the case settled, it's not an admission of wrongdoing on the part of the defendant. The recitation of facts reads to me, and I would compliment Ms. Ventura's lawyers on this. I mean, it reads to me like this was directed at the media, right? It was the whole recitation of facts was done in a way where it really just tells a story. That story being Ms. Ventura's allegations of wrongdoing on the part of P. Diddy. And because the case settled, the reality is, barring some bombshell release of information, we'll never know if the facts contained within this complaint are really true or not. So since we've been talking about the complaint, the lawsuit that was filed in this case, we're going to go ahead. There's going to be a link in the description down below. You can click on that link. That's a document that's accessible by the public. You're able to read it yourself. The one thing you can't read, of course, is the settlement agreement that we've been talking about. That's the confidential document. That's the one that's highly confidential, that neither you nor I are going to be able to read it, barring some blockbuster disclosure. So if you have any other questions, be sure to put questions in the comments below. We do look at the comments, and we'll see you at the next video.